What you are about to see is taken from the case files of the Chicago Police Department and the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. This program contains dramatic reenactments. Some of the names and details have been changed to protect the innocent.
What's this?
I don't know. Probably just a wino.
Whose turn is it this time?
It's mine, isn't it?
Yep.
Hey, you, buddy. It's time to go. Sir, wake up. Can't sleep it off here. Come on, wake up. Hey, wake up. Oh, shit. Call CPD.
At first, the death of an unidentified man found in a Chicago alley appeared to be a routine drug-related murder. But as homicide detectives looked deeper into the case, they would uncover a conspiracy that spanned 2 continents.
We got a call from the communications section stating that a beat car on the west side of the city of Chicago had a body found in an alley. The victim was heavily clothed, layers of clothing on him, and there was blood underneath him.
Thought he was a wino. Just discovered him not too long ago.
We were seeing where the gunshot wounds are on his chest. He had 2 in his head.
Hey, how long is it going to be until the crime lab gets here?
About 5 minutes.
It was noted that in his pants, his back pocket was pulled out. Initially, a robbery came to mind. He had a watch on, but nothing else on him.
See any shells around? Any casings? Is there anything around?
Nothing.
There was no spent casings, which led us to believe that this was done with a revolver. Other than that, no other evidence was found. The victim was hard to identify. He was fingerprinted at the morgue, and a short time later, those prints came back unreadable. So now we have a real problem. So what we do is we have the photos of the victim put out in the daily bulletin, posters, that type of thing. On the 20th of January, Mr. Bertio makes out a missing case report.
File a missing person's report. Okay. What's the missing person's name?
His last name is Pandy, P-A-N-D-E. First name is Ash, A-S-H.
And what's your relation to the missing?
I'm his godfather.
Mr. Bertio told us Mr. Pandy came from India here basically to educate himself.
Okay, and the last time the missing was seen?
Last time I saw him was January 8th.
A short time thereafter, the sergeant in the Missing Persons Bureau put 1 and 1 together and came up with 2. And it just so happened that this godfather figure lived right behind police headquarters. So the sergeant went around the corner, out the back, and into this building and looked for this man and asked him if he recognized this as the person he reported missing.
Mr. Bertolo, I was looking through the daily bulletin here, and I came across this picture of a man that was shot on the west side. I was wondering if you could take a look at it and see if it's your friend. Is this him?
That's Ash.
Mr. Bertio immediately took us to the victim's apartment and started explaining to us that Mr. Pandy was looking for some business venture.
I know he was having some problems with his business partners.
And who was that?
Richard Dykes.
Richard Dykes published children's books. He was looking for some capital. Mr. Pandy thought this might be a good idea to get involved with this man and that they could make a fortune in this venture.
So you and Ash were business partners?
Yeah, we were actually friends, you know, and then we became business partners.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. Ash just became real unreliable.
Ash Pandy was the administrator, the person who wrote the checks, the keeper of the till, so to speak.
He was my paymaster.
What's a paymaster?
He's the guy who takes care of payroll, you know, and people got to get paid. Contracts got to be met.
My initial impression of him was that he had an answer immediately for everything, that he was prepared to meet us. Whenever we had a question for him, he came right back with an answer, like it was pre-planned.
Is this your personal computer or your business computer?
Companies. We had that taken from Ash's apartment.
Mind if I take a quick look at it?
Sure.
Thanks.
Some of these records basically were at addresses and people that Mr. Dykes said were subcontractors, and Anthony Spencer's name came up on some checks. Dykes wrote him a check for X amount of dollars and then double endorsed it, which again set off some bells.
We had a list of these supposed subcontractors, and we found criminal backgrounds on several of these people.
Ash Pandy's personal visa came up missing, and on the night Mr. Pandy was found in the alley dead, we had receipts of an ATM withdrawal for $500 about 3 hours before he was found, and another $500 right at about the time he was found. We went to the bank that handled the ATM and spoke to their security officer, who provided us with a sequential photo with time stamping of the person who made the withdrawal at the ATM involved.
We retrieved Chicago Police Department arrest photos, compared those photos to the ATM photos, and we had a positive match. Mr. Anthony Spencer. It proved that Mr. Spencer had used the victim, Ash Pandy's ATM card on the night of 8th of January and the early morning hours of the 9th of January. His body was found on the 9th of January. Now we knew we had something. Mr. Dykes told us that Mr. Soto was an artist for the company, and we wanted to interview him because of that fact, and he lived across from the ATM that was used the night of the murder. So we went and located Mr. Soto.
We're investigating the murder of Ashwan Pandy.
By luck, we came upon him. We told him this is about Richard Dykes, that we got to ask him some questions.
Yeah, sure, why not?
And he agreed to come with us.
Chicago police homicide detectives were slowly beginning to piece together the shattered fragments of Ash Pandy's last days. But one question remained unanswered. Who would want to kill the prominent businessman?
How about Richard Dykes? Do you know Richard Dykes?
Well, you know, I see him around, you know, in the neighborhood here and there. I hang around with him, you know, we go drinking and stuff.
It's a little more than that, Dennis. Cut the BS, okay? You're on his payroll.
Richard Dykes paid you cash?
Okay, all right. You know, he'll give me a check, all right, for like $3,000, you know.
Dennis Soto said that what Mr. Dykes would do would be cut him a large check. Dennis would then cash that check. Dennis Soto would cash that check and keep some of the funds, and then he would kick back the rest of the money to Mr. Dykes, and Mr. Dykes would pocket the money.
He gave me a gun one time, you know. He wanted me to fix it for him. You know?
He stated that Richard Dykes did hire him to make some silencers.
And he gave me these books, and he wanted me to make this, you know, this silencer for this gun.
What were these books about?
Richard Dykes actually brought him 3 books on how to make homemade silencers.
Nothing wrong with that, right?
Right now, would you sign a consent to search your apartment?
Oh, so you to go in?
Yes.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, that's all right.
You have nothing to hide?
No, I don't have nothing to hide.
He said there were silencer books on how to make silencers in the apartment. My partner, Rich Chernikovich, and Tom McClory went to that location and retrieved these books. Now, you gotta be honest with us. You gotta tell the truth. Okay, a man's dead here.
He then gave a full confession into his involvement, Anthony Spencer's involvement, and how Richard Dykes masterminded this whole scheme to kill Ashwandi Pandey.
Okay, look, I'll tell you what happened, all right? This is the truth. I was over at Dykes' house,
He said that Mr. Dykes was supposed to have a meeting with Ash Pandey on that date, on the 8th of January. Prior to that, Dykes had spoken to Mr. Soto and Mr. Spencer, and the plan was hatched that they were going to kill Mr. Pandey because he had caught on to their scheme, and Mr. Pandey was going to blow the whistle on him, basically.
And I was by his house. We're having a drink, you know, and this Pandey guy, he comes over and drank.
Oh, there's none left. We must have drank it all. Hey, there's another bottle in the bedroom. Why don't you go grab it?
He was lured into a back bedroom, and Mr. Spencer was waiting with a handgun, a .38, with a silencer, homemade silencer on it.
Spencer, hold him down! Shoot him! Hold him down! Shoot this guy! I'm holding him the trail! Hold him! Shoot him! The
silencer, being homemade and didn't work properly, it just injured Mr. Pandey at the time. It did not kill him. They then moved him to the bathroom, gave him a towel, sat him down, and then they decided they didn't know what they were going to do. They were kind of panicked. They demanded Mr. Pandey's ATM card, and they demanded the PIN number, and they got it.
Come on, get him over here. We got to get him out of here. Come on.
The 3 of them took him down the elevator, and they put him in Mr. Spencer's car. They drove from downtown Chicago to the west side of Chicago with Mr. Dykes and Mr. Soto in Mr. Dykes' car, tailing them. They escorted him out of the car, telling him that he was going to go to the hospital. He had no idea where he was, and that's when Mr. Spencer shot him numerous other times, killing him right there on the scene.
With the confession Dennis Soto gave us, we then went out to look for Anthony Spencer to place him under arrest.
We told him he was under arrest for the murder of Ash Pandey. We found his car, the car that was used to transport Mr. Pandey to a murder location. We towed that car. We then went to Area 4 headquarters with Mr. Spencer, where he was questioned.
Anthony Spencer was brought into Area 4, at which time he was advised of his Miranda rights. He was questioned into the murder of Ashwandi Pandey. We asked him if he ever used an ATM machine.
Have you ever used a machine at all?
Never.
Never?
No, I ain't got no ATM card.
He denied it vigorously twice. At that point, my partner Joe Walsh shows him the ATM photos.
These are ATM transactions used on the victim's ATM card, okay? Withdrawals made. Recognize this guy?
It's me.
At which time he looked at him and he says, "I've got a problem."
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, anything you want.
You gonna go pick up Dykes? You should. He's the one who masterminded this whole thing.
Spencer's saying, yeah, okay, I did it, but the real bad guy is Dykes, and you have him because I don't feel it's fair for you to have me and not get the guy that's really behind all of this. And we told him, no, we don't have him yet, but we're gonna get him.
We then contact the crime lab. The crime lab goes up, prepares the bathroom for this luminol process. It's a chemical that's put down there. No matter how much you try to clean up blood in an area, you're not going to get all of it. The luminol process proved very positive for us.
Myself and my partner stayed at the scene, attempting to locate and arrest Mr. Dykes. And lo and behold, here he was, a short time later, coming down Chestnut Street. He said hello to us, and then we placed him under arrest for the murder of Ash Pandey, placed him in handcuffs, and he was transported to Area 4 headquarters for questioning.
After an intensive investigation, detectives had arrested Richard Dykes and 2 accomplices for the murder of Ash Pandey. Now it was up to prosecutors to unravel the twisted conspiracy.
The key piece of evidence, without a doubt, was the defendant's statement. We learned through his words how that murder occurred, why that murder occurred. We learned about the interaction between the victim, Mr. Ashwani Pandey, and all 3 defendants.
And what happened during your confession?
They made me start to say things that they wanted to hear. They wouldn't let me go to sleep.
The defense's strategy was going to be basically that the statement was coerced, that the defendant was beaten by the police officers.
And that's how come I told them that.
I felt very confident after we arrested our case in chief. The reason for that, our evidence was very, very strong.
Counsel, Mr. Soto, please rise. Based upon the evidence presented in this case, I find that the people of the state of Illinois have proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and you are guilty as charged. Oh, I hereby...
He, in fact, was sentenced to 60 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections for this crime.
No, listen, did you tell me it was Dykes? It wasn't me, okay?
The Spencer trial was, in fact, a bench trial. The defense waived a jury trial and had the judge in the courtroom hear the evidence and decide Spencer's fate. The evidence that was presented was basically the same as was the evidence that was presented during the Dennis Soto trial.
Counsel and Mr. Spencer, please rise. After hearing the evidence of this case and having a sentencing hearing, I hereby order that you are sentenced.
The defendant, Anthony Spencer, was sentenced to natural life.
Richard Dykes was starting to pretend that he was unfit for trial and was acting as if he was unfit, and so he had been sent to be evaluated by a psychiatrist to determine whether he in fact is fit for trial or not.
I have reviewed the psychiatric report and evaluation, and it is clear to this court that Mr. Dykes has attempted to deceive not only the doctor in this matter, but the court. I hereby order that this cause will be set for trial and is so set for trial on Monday at 9 a.m. It is so ordered. Thank you.
The attorney on Richard Dykes had approached us with a plea offer that the defendant would in fact plead guilty to natural life if the state would not seek the death penalty.
Your Honor, we've spoken to the victim's family, and based on our conversation with the family, we've reached an agreement with the defense in this case. In exchange for the defendant pleading guilty and agreeing to a sentence of natural life in prison, the state will agree not to seek the death penalty in this case. And this is in accordance with the wishes of the family.
I think that these are some of the best detectives that the Chicago Police Department has. They did an absolutely outstanding job in this case, of solving this case, in getting the confessions from all 3 of these individuals. These detectives were just among the best there are.
I'm Brian Dennehy. Join me for the next episode of Arrest and Trial.